Hello, my name is Naomi Colas, and today we are going to talk about staff reporting for the 24-25 school year. I am with the Department of Education Service Desk, and our email address is nde.servicedesk@nebraska.gov. If you have any questions about staff reporting, please send us an email. We will do our best to help you as soon as possible. So what we're going to cover in this presentation is we're going to talk about staff reporting, due dates, briefly review the calendar, go through a lot of guidance and resources, and then show you some of the steps on how to complete this collection. And then finally, we'll review some updates and some reminders for you. So to start, the staff reporting collection has the same annual due dates every year. There is a link in this presentation here that takes you to a website that has the staff reporting calendar. I'm not going to open any of the links during the presentation, but I'll point them out to you. And where this recording is found, you can also find a PDF of the presentation and utilize the links for your purposes. So staff reporting opens every year in early August. It is open currently at this time for the 24-25 school year, and our first due date is September 15th. This is a statutory deadline for public districts and non-public schools. The rest of the system should complete their staff reporting during this time period as well, but they're not statutorily required to do so. Then the next deadline is October 15th, and this is a deadline for all systems. At the end of October, on October 31st, that fall audit window closes. And then in early November, we utilize the data that all the districts and systems have submitted from the state, and we publish the information, including email addresses, to this education directory. And this directory is available to the public, and it's a great place for them to look up and see, find all the math teachers in the state and get the information to contact them. Then the next data extract is in December, and we utilize the information from the staff reporting collection for a non-public curriculum collection that helps the non-publics report their curriculum data to us. Staff reporting is open this entire time. It never actually shuts down within the portal. Now, June 30th, at the end of the school year, is the literal last day it is open though, and that is the final deadline. So by that date, we expect that all of your information from throughout the year has been updated because there aren't changes allowed after that final deadline. So here is a link that takes you to the staff reporting manual, and you can also find this information, the manual, within the collection itself, and I'll show you where to find that in a future slide here. The information that we collect in staff reporting is based on two different data sets. One is regarding staff demographics. Some examples of that could be first name, last name, gender, ethnicity, race, salary, and email. Then the second set of data is called position assignment. And this is where you get into the nitty-gritty of what that person is actually doing at your school. So you'll report a school number. That'll tell us, are they working in the high school or are they working in the elementary? An assignment date, which is the start date for the school year, or if someone starts midway through the school year, the start date for maybe the second semester. It includes their position code, which tells us what they are doing. Are they teaching? Are they a para? And then it includes things like FTE or days worked for substitutes. So this staff reporting data and what we generally talk about is called staff reporting 24-25. So that's one collection or one application within the portal. But in order to make sure that your information is correct and to run any reports, this data collection requires two collections. And the second one is called NSSRS validation. And this is an application where you go into and it takes all your information from staff reporting, it puts it in there, and then it compares it to these other systems. So as you think of completing staff reporting data for the 24-25 school year, make sure that you're adding two different collections to your portal. So staff reporting is a new collection every year. NSSRS validation, you only add one time, and then you have it moving forward. So if you have any questions about how to get access, contact your portal district administrator. A lot of times this is the superintendent. And then in here, we have an example of the type of access that you might want to obtain if you're going to be analyzing a lot of the information in NSSRS validation. In order to, like I kind of talked about this two different collections, but in order to actually complete it, we think of it as a 3-step process. So 1, you go into staff reporting 24-25 and you enter that demographic and that position assignment information. Within the collection, you may see some errors pop up. You'll want to make sure to get those resolved. Then step 2, you're going to go into that second collection, NSSRS validation, and you're going to see that there's potentially some errors. We've taken the information you reported and we've compared it to some different systems, and it may say to you, oh, this person's not certified for that position, or oh, you've got a principal, but you reported them at this building number and we need someone over at this building number. In addition, in that collection, there's some verification reports, and these are really wonderful if you want to see a holistic picture of everybody that you've reported in the collection. Then the final 3-step process is to review both of these collections throughout the school year to make sure that you put in those updates, those people who start midway through the school year, or make sure you're end dating someone who has left midway through the school year. And then making sure at the end of the year, you're really evaluating and take a full scope picture of your data to make sure that is really everything you want to report for the 24-25 school year. So to get those collections added and where to find them in the portal, you're going to look under the Student and Staff NSSRS tab. If you've already added the collections to your portal, they'll be in the top section that says available. If you haven't added them, you got to get that activation code from your portal district administrator, and then you're going to add it to your portal account. So you've got both the collections added. You go into staff reporting 24-25. What next? When you look in there, it's going to actually show you the information that we've imported from the previous year. So that means all the staff that you reported last year are going to show up in this year's collection. There's a few things that we don't import because the assumption is those things changed. Examples might be the start date, because we know that the start date's going to change because it's the new school year, or salary and benefits information. So when you go into staff reporting, definitely you're going to have to touch and make an update to every single staff person in there. You're also going to need to add new staff. We don't know to add them, so you'll have to add them. And then if people left your district or your school, you're going to want to delete them entirely, because if they aren't there for the 24-25 school year, you don't need to report them. All right, so here's what the main page of the collection looks like. And there's 2 different methods to submit this data. One is you can hit the enter edit button, and that takes you to a page where you're actually going to update each individual staff person one by one. And for a smaller school, smaller districts, this might be the best way to complete the collection for you. The second method is to actually utilize files. So if you're a large school district or a large school, you're going to probably want to think about utilizing this method. And so what you can do, one option, is to download files, make updates to them, and then upload them back into the system. And then I said earlier that you can find that staff manual in the collection, and there's the button for it right in there. So let's say you're a smaller district, even if you're a big district, and you've decided I'm just going to enter and update my staff one by one. You're going to click the enter edit button, and you're going to go, and it's going to take you to that page where you're just going to do one by one. If you decide that you're going to do the file download upload method, you can hit the download staging file records button, and that's going to have you download 2 separate files, one for demographics and one for position assignment. And then you're going to make your updates to those, and you're going to save them separately, and then you have to upload them one at a time. I will say that some school information systems, they actually provide file downloads. So you may want to investigate if that's something that your SIS provides. And if so, you might want to utilize that instead of utilizing the one from the collection itself. All right, and if you do decide to do the file download upload, you're going to have to upload those files one at a time. And so you have to start with the demographics file, and then you upload the position assignments file. And something that has gotten folks in trouble before is when you add that demographics file, it immediately deletes everything that was there before. So you're going to want to make sure before you hit upload that you have everything downloaded already. You are good removing the data that's in the system, because once you do that demographics file, everything's going to be wiped out. Once you've got your information in the system, whether you did it individually or you did it by file upload, you're going to want to review everything in the staff reporting collection. And that's where I talked about there's some errors within the collection itself. So you can click that entry edit data button on the homepage. And then there's a button called errors only. If you click on that, it's going to have a drop-down menu of all your staff that show an error. And then each of the errors will be listed after the staff name. So some examples might be an invalid gender code or an invalid positions assignment date. The big one that starts the school year is that invalid position assignment date, because remember, that's a data field that we don't assume and we don't pull in from last year's data. All right, so once you feel like, yep, everything in my staff reporting collection is good to go, you might consider waiting overnight. We have a process that goes, and you know how we talked about that NSSRS validation takes all these things and compares different things to different systems. That's that overnight process. So then the next day, go into your NSSRS validation collection and look to see if there's any errors listed. You'll see on the homepage, this is the collection homepage, you'll see there's a button here where you can click review errors. And then another option of how to get to the same information is to hit the errors button up here. There is the ability for you to reprocess errors, and it doesn't reprocess all of them, but it reprocesses a large chunk of them. So let's say you're looking at your errors and you go to staff reporting, make a quick update, and then you can come back into NSSRS validation. You can reprocess those errors to see if what you did worked to fix it. But some of them do require an overnight reprocess. So something to keep in mind. All right, so you've done all your errors. Now you're going to go to your verification reports. And this is a good tool to use throughout the school year as you've made updates, or maybe to save things if you want to save your current personnel report, which lists everybody, or if you want to look at who your certified staff are. This section here, verification reports, lists all these different kind of reports that you can do. And when I talk about other systems that we compare that data to, one of them is courses, so course data. So for the public districts, we're looking at the data reported in Advisor, and then we're comparing that to your teachers and your certified teachers and what their endorsements are. And so that report's kind of nifty because it shows you all those things combined. And then for the non-publics, once we collect that non-public curriculum data, we compare your teachers and their endorsements to the curriculum data that you reported in there. The other data sort of comparison place we do is this DHHS lookup site. And that's kind of handled back end manually. But for if you have, if you're a public district and you're wanting to get funds for someone through federal programs or special education, we utilize information at this DHHS lookup site, and the license is there. So you can always go and see if someone's licensed properly through the DHHS lookup site. So here's a few examples of some of the reports that I've talked about. One is the current certification report. So that's anyone you've reported that's certified. One is that current personnel report. This is really great if you just want a holistic picture of literally everyone that's been in staff reporting. There's that teachers assigned out of endorsed area or level that I talked about with the course comparisons, and then the staff reporting for the SPED financial reporting system. So that's that one that uses the DHHS licensures. You can also, let's say you're a new person this school year, 24-25, and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know what they submitted in the last year. You can actually look at last year's data in the NSSRS validation collection. At the top of the collection, you'll see there's a year, and you can click this change year and go to last year's information and run that current personnel report, and it'll show everyone and what positions they were in, etc. All right, so a few updates and reminders as we go into the actual process of you guys starting this stuff. couple of years ago, we added coaches to staff reporting as a reportable position because they did require a certificate. Well, starting this year, reporting coaches is going to be optional, and this is due to changes in NSAA bylaws. So I have a link here to the NSAA homepage, so you can see the types of coaches that you can report, and then a link to their bylaws. And this is the section specifically that talks about this change that coaches don't have to be certified anymore. And so I think the biggest takeaway is report those coaches if you want to. We're still going to run cert checks on them, and it's a good resource, a good tool for you to know if your coach's certs are up to date. But if you have someone who's coaching and they're not certified, you don't want to put them in staff reporting necessarily, because we are going to run a cert check and then it's going to tell you this person is not certified. So reporting coaches is optional. Some other sort of resources, things to consider as you're completing your staff reporting collection. There's a collection in the portal called the NDE Staff ID, and this is a place where you can go to create new staff IDs. So for those staff who aren't certified, because they come with an NDE Staff ID, so that would be your paras, you can go in here and create a new NDE Staff ID for them. It's really important to put in their social security number when you do create that number, because if this para ends up becoming a teacher 2 years down the line, they'll be able to utilize the same NDE Staff ID that you created when they were para as they can use for their certified teaching role. Another helpful resource is this public certification lookup link, and this is just where the public can go to look up if someone's certified, what kind of certificate they have, when it expires, what their endorsements are. And then last but not least, listed here is the Teach Business Partner Portal. So contact your superintendent if you think this might be helpful. But this Business Partner Portal gives the district and systems an opportunity to look at their staff in the certification system that are at their school. Especially if you have folks who are going through the certification process, it's helpful to know where they are in that process. We did move substitute teachers into staff reporting a couple years ago. So this is just a reminder, they're no longer a separate collection in the CDC. You're going to report your substitutes in staff reporting. And then another reminder, and I've said it a couple times, but make sure that if your staff leave in the middle of the year, don't delete them from staff reporting. You want to make sure to just use that completion date to end date their time at your district, but to still keep them reported for the time they were at your district. So we do want to make a note and talk about FTE and days worked, which is part of that position's assignment information that we collect. And the certification team actually uses that information to help renew certificates. So days worked are really important, and that FTE is especially important. So when you're reporting staff reporting data, you want to make sure to consider 1 versus 100 FTE. If that person is a full-time teacher and that's all they do for you, you want to make sure to report them as 100 FTE. That way the person has no problem getting their certificate renewed. If you only report them with 1 FTE, they actually have to have, I think, 50 FTE for over a certain amount of time to be able to renew. So if you only report them as 1 instead of 100, that can impact their renewal. And then another reminder just to review those errors in those reports and NSSRS validation throughout the school year versus waiting until the end of the year. It's a very stressful time in May and June. I know many of your data stewards would probably agree with me because there's so much information that has to be reported. And so if you can make sure that staff reporting isn't one of those things you have to do the week before the deadline, if you can get it done in May before you leave for the school year, it's just really helpful on everyone. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, please always feel free to email the service desk. We do have work days and business hour sort of opportunities throughout the fall, but please do let the service desk know if you have any questions. I appreciate your time today. Have a great one.